When a woman says no, most men hear rejection. Full stop. Case closed. But her brain is rarely finished speaking. That's the first mistake men make, assuming clarity where none exists. You hear a word and assign it a final meaning. Her mind, on the other hand, doesn't operate in absolutes. It operates in layers. Parallel processes running at the same time. Desire in one channel, fear in another, identity, conditioning, reputation, impulse, all colliding at once. So when no leaves her mouth, it's not a moral statement. It's not a logical conclusion. It's neurological output, data surfacing from a system under tension. Men think words are decisions. For women, words are often pressure valves, a way to slow the moment, regain control, or buy time while the internal negotiation continues. This is why so many men get confused. They treat no as an end point, while her brain is still mid-process. You're listening for permission or denial. She's regulating arousal, self-image, and risk simultaneously. That single word is not her final answer. It's her nervous system signaling friction, because attraction doesn't feel clean inside her. It feels destabilizing. It threatens the version of herself she believes she's supposed to be. And when that threat spikes, the mouth reacts faster than the mind can resolve it. This is the uncomfortable truth no one teaches men. No is often not resistance to you, but resistance to what she's feeling inside. And if you don't understand that distinction, you'll misread everything that follows. Because sometimes no isn't resistance, it's conflict. Men process no, the way they process a red light. Binary, stop or go, yes or no, permission or denial, final, linear. Once the word is spoken, the case is closed in his mind. He assumes the decision has already been made, the door already locked. That assumption feels rational to him because male psychology is built around resolution. Decide, act, move on. There is comfort in finality. Ambiguity feels inefficient. So when he hears no, he treats it as a conclusion rather than a moment in motion. This is where the misinterpretation begins. Men hear words. Women experience internal states. You are listening to language. She is managing sensation. You register a sentence. She is regulating a collision happening inside her nervous system. Desire doesn't arrive in her body as a clean signal. It arrives layered with risk. Risk to reputation. Risk to self-image. Risk to the identity she believes she must protect. So while you are waiting for a verdict, she is handling a surge. The word no is often not her decision, it's her break. Men decide. Women negotiate internally. That difference alone explains most confusion between the sexes. You think in straight lines. She moves in loops. Her meta doesn't ask, do I want this or not? It asks, what does wanting this mean about me? That question doesn't resolve instantly. It creates friction, and friction produces heat. The nervous system responds before logic can finish its sentence. So the mouth speaks to reduce pressure, not to declare truth. This is why treating no as a verdict is a mistake. You mistake regulation for rejection. You confuse a pause for a wall. You assume clarity where there is conflict. And when you respond to that word, Without understanding the state behind it, you either retreat too fast or push too hard. Both errors born from the same misunderstanding. Here is the line that matters. The one men merely grasp, you hear the word. She feels the collision. When attraction hits her system, the female brain doesn't move in one direction. It fractures into contradiction. Desire ignites at the biological level, fast and automatic, but it immediately collides with conditioning that's been installed for years. She feels arousal, then instantly evaluates what that arousal says about her. Wanting clashes with who she believes she's supposed to be. Instinct pushes forward while reputation pulls back. This is not hesitation, it's simultaneous activation of opposing forces. Her nervous system is lit up, while her identity alarms are screaming for restraint. Arousal doesn't arrive cleanly inside her body. It arrives with questions attached. Am I allowed to feel this? What does this make me look like? What does this change about how I'll be seen afterward? Desire threatens the image she spent years protecting. So the moment attraction intensifies, self-monitoring intensifies with it. The stronger the pull, the louder the internal resistance. This is why attraction feels destabilizing rather than simple. It creates pressure between impulse and permission. Between wanting something and granting herself the right to want it. Inside her mind, there is no unified command center issuing clear orders. There are competing systems arguing in real time. One part of her is leaning forward, drawn by sensation, chemistry, and emotional charge. Another part is pulling the emergency brake, scanning for consequences, judgment, and loss of control. This is not confusion, it's conflict. Her brain is not failing to decide. It is actively negotiating. And here's where men misread the moment entirely. The mouth speaks faster than the negotiation can finish. Words come out as regulation, not resolution. No is often the first move her system makes to slow the collision happening inside. It's a way to regain control while her body and mind catch up with each other. That single word does not reflect the final outcome. It reflects the tension of the moment. This is the core reality men almost never see. Her mouth says no, while her nervous system is still deciding. This is the paradox that confuses men the most. No often shows up at the exact moment attraction peaks. Not when interest is weak, not when chemistry is absent, but when desire crosses a threshold that feels dangerous to her sense of control. The stronger the pull, the louder the resistance. And to a male mind, that feels backward. You assume resistance means lack of desire. In her system, resistance often means the opposite desire has become strong enough to trigger fear. Attraction raises the stakes. When nothing is felt, nothing is risked. But when chemistry intensifies, so does the potential cost. Fear spikes, not because she doesn't want what's happening, but because she does. Loss of control threatens the identity she's worked to maintain. The version of herself that feels composed, selective, and above impulse starts slipping. And that loss feels more dangerous than rejection ever could. So her nervous system reaches for the brake. This is why no is often misread as an exit when it's actually a regulator. It's not a door slam, it's a pressure release, a way to slow momentum long enough for her self-image to catch up with her arousal. Her system is trying to regain balance, not end the interaction. When attraction accelerates faster than identity can adapt, The mouth intervenes. Men who don't understand this react incorrectly. They either push harder, interpreting resistance as a challenge, or they retreat completely, assuming rejection. Both responses to BMO ignore the real function of the moment. The first triggers fear. The second collapses polarity. The correct understanding is not about action, it's about interpretation. Here is the dark truth that explains everything that looks contradictory. On the surface, women resist hardest when they feel themselves slipping. When desire threatens to override the version of themselves they're invested in preserving, resistance spikes. Not because they don't want what's happening, but because they do, and that wanting carries consequences. No in that moment is not about you. It's about her fighting to regain control of herself before desire rewrites the rules she's been living by. Not every no comes from the same place. And this is where most men fail to distinguish signal from stop. There are 3 forms it takes, and only one of them is final. The rest are not rejections. They are regulators. The first is the protective no. This one appears when momentum outpaces safety. She wants to slow things down, not shut them down. Control matters here. Not control over you, but over herself. Her system is asking a simple question. Am I safe to continue feeling this? This no is a test of environment, presence, and stability. It surfaces when attraction is present, but uncontained. She applies a brake to see whether the moment collapses or holds, whether pressure increases or steadiness remains. Protective no's are tense, charged, and conditional. They exist to buy time, not to end the interaction. The second is the identity no. This one cuts deeper. Desire clashes with self-concept. What she feels threatens the story she tells herself about who she is. This isn't who I'm supposed to be runs beneath the surface. Attraction here feels dangerous not because of you, but because of what it unlocks inside her. The conflict is internal. She wants the feeling, but not the meaning attached to it. This no is often emotional, inconsistent, and followed by contradictory behavior. It's not about boundaries, it's about self-image, trying to survive impact. Then there is the boundary so. This is the only true stop. It is calm, emotionally flat, clean. There is no charge, no hesitation, no push-pull, no internal tension. The nervous system is settled. The decision has already been made. There is no negotiation happening behind the scenes. Nothing to test, nothing to regulate. This no doesn't need reinforcement because it isn't fragile. It doesn't wobble. The critical distinction is, this only one of these is final. The others exist because something is still alive inside her system. Misreading them is how men either push when they shouldn't or disappear when nothing was actually over. Understanding the difference isn't about entitlement or pressure. It's about precision. When the no is not final, her body betrays the negotiation her words are trying to contain. This is where men who only listen lose the plot. Words are logic. Bodies are physiology. The voice can choose restraint, but the nervous system doesn't follow instructions, it reacts to stimulus. Her mouth may say no, but her body is still processing attraction in real time. And biology always speaks louder than intention. You see it first in proximity. She doesn't fully withdraw. She stays close enough to feel you, close enough to stay activated. Distance would resolve the tension, but she doesn't take it. Her body lingers where her words say it shouldn't. That gap between statement and behavior is not an accident. It's internal conflict leaking outward. The nervous system hasn't disengaged, even if the mind is trying to regain control. Then there's tone. When no is final, tone is flat, neutral, emotionless. But when conflict is present, tone wavers. It carries charge. It may sound defensive, nervous, playful, uncertain, or even apologetic. The inconsistency isn't weakness, it's evidence. Her physiology is still lit up, even as language attempts to shut the door. Logic is trying to overrule sensation. And the strain shows. Watch withdrawal timing. A true stop is immediate and clean. When no is a regulator, withdrawal is delayed. Movements hesitate. Eye contact lingers a beat too long. The body takes longer to exit the moment than the words suggest. That delay is her system deciding what comes next. Not you, her. And then there's emotional charge, the most telling sign of all. If emotion spikes after the no, something is still active. Calm means closure. Charge means collision. Her system hasn't settled. It's still balancing arousal against control, desire against identity. This is why men who respond only to words miss what's actually happening. Here is the rule that cuts through all confusion: words can lie. The nervous system can't. It doesn't care about image, reputation, or self-concept. It only responds to what feels alive. And when the body is still responding, the story isn't over, even if the mouth says it should be. This is where most men sabotage the moment without realizing it. Faced with resistance, they swing to one of two extremes, and both destroy the dynamic. The first is aggression, not always loud or obvious, but forceful in energy. He pushes, he argues, he tries to override the no with logic, pressure, or entitlement. This response doesn't communicate confidence, it signals threat. Her nervous system reads it instantly. What was once internal conflict turns into external danger. Attraction collapses into fear because control has been taken from her instead of respected. Aggression doesn't resolve tension. It confirms her worst instincts. The second mistake looks harmless but is just as lethal: apology and collapse. He retreats instantly, over-explains, reassures, shrinks. He treats her no like an accusation rather than a signal. In doing so, he hands over his frame. Polarity dies. The moment loses charge. What she was negotiating internally never gets resolved because the tension that created it evaporates. This response doesn't make her feel safe. It makes her feel alone with her conflict. Desire needs structure to stay alive. Collapse removes it. Both reactions fail for opposite reasons. One triggers fear, the other kills polarity. And neither demonstrates strength. Masculine strength in these moments is not action, it's regulation. Calm, grounded, non-reactive. The ability to remain centered when friction appears. When a man doesn't flinch at resistance, doesn't escalate, and doesn't crumble, something important happens. Her nervous system settles enough to finish its negotiation. The conflict either resolves forward or closes cleanly. Either outcome is healthy. But only one allows attraction to survive. This is the part men rarely understand. She isn't watching what you say. She isn't even watching what you do. She's watching what you become when she resists. Do you turn dangerous? Do you disappear? Or do you remain steady? That response tells her more than any words ever could. Because resistance isn't a test of persuasion, it's a test of presence. At the deepest level, no is not a strategy. It's not a game. It's not a test designed to manipulate you. That belief is where men go wrong. No is a signal raw output from a system negotiating itself under pressure. When you stop treating it like a move and start reading it like data, the entire dynamic reframes. What you're witnessing isn't rejection. It's internal negotiation reaching the surface. The female mind doesn't shut desire down because it's absent. It does it because desire has crossed into dangerous territory. Dangerous not morally, but psychologically. Desire threatens identity. It challenges the version of herself she has invested years protecting. The moment attraction grows strong enough to destabilize that identity, resistance appears. Not to stop desire, but to contain it. To reassert control before the ground shifts too far beneath her. This is the core truth most men never hear, and almost never understand. A woman says no when desire threatens her identity. Not when desire is weak, not when attraction is missing, but when the internal cost of wanting feels too high to absorb all at once. No becomes a way to slow the impact, to compartmentalize the feeling before it rewrites her self-concept. And here's the dangerous insight hidden inside that truth. The more attraction she feels, the more her mind tries to regain control. Desire activates the nervous system. Control activates the mind. When those two systems clash, friction appears. Resistance is the mind pulling the reins back on a body that's already moving forward. This is why intense attraction often looks like contradiction, why signals don't align, why words and behavior drift apart. Nothing is broken. The system is working exactly as designed. Once you see this, confusion disappears. You stop personalizing resistance. You stop chasing words. You stop collapsing or escalating. You understand that the real moment isn't happening between you and her, it's happening inside her. And your role isn't to force an outcome. It's to recognize whether the negotiation resolves forward or closes cleanly. Because no was never the enemy. Misunderstanding it was. If you've stayed with this all the way through, understand what that says about you. You're not here because you feel entitled to outcomes. You're not here because you're confused and looking for tricks. And you're not here to override anyone's boundaries. You're here because you want to see clearly. And clarity is rare. Most men either react emotionally or shut down intellectually. Awareness sits in a different place. Calm, observant, precise. This understanding doesn't turn you into someone who pushes harder. It turns you into someone who doesn't need to. You stop mistaking resistance for rejection. You stop personalizing moments that were never about you to begin with. And most importantly, you stop responding to words in isolation. You read context, state, energy. You recognize when something is alive and when it's finished. That alone puts you ahead of the majority of men who either escalate blindly or disappear prematurely. Being aware doesn't mean you assume every no hides desire. That's ignorance in disguise. Awareness means you know the difference between conflict and closure, between negotiation and a boundary. between charge and calm. It means you respect the stop when it's real, and you don't panic when it isn't. You let moments resolve themselves without force or collapse. That's not manipulation. That's composure. This is what emotional maturity actually looks like in practice. Not entitlement, not resentment, not confusion. Awareness. The ability to stay grounded while others lose their frame. The ability to see what's happening beneath the surface before reacting. And when you move from that place, your responses change. Your presence changes. The entire dynamic changes. So remember this as the final takeaway. Understanding no isn't about pushing past it. It's about knowing what it means before you respond.